Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We've got another great Salty Dog webinar on tap. Today we have Sat Comm at Sea with Ron Wright from Ocens Incorporated. And a couple of quick reminders, as I just mentioned, please keep yourself muted, keep video off. But if you have any questions or comments for Ron, type them in the chat box. And now I'm going to hand things over to Alex Helfand, our Salty Dog Education Coordinator.
Thanks, Barb, and welcome everyone for another afternoon's webinar. I asked Ron to come talk to us about satellite communications since, not surprisingly, we've started to see questions popping up in our forums and in other places on, what kind of devices should I be using, how do I use them, what can I get, etc. And I think it's really timely since we have, for those of you who are planning on cruising this summer and are someplace hopefully warm right now, but maybe warm because you're not outside, you've got time to make decisions on what equipment, and I think Ron can give you a pretty good idea of the various options you have out there. So I will turn this over to Ron. Once again, at the end, we will, after we stop the recording, we'll open things up for a little more informal conversations about any topics you want. And Ron will be answering questions at the end. So any questions you have, just put them into the chat and I will make sure we get them all covered at the end. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ron.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss what's new in 2022 for satellite communications. My name is Ron Wright, and I'm the Director of Commercial and Government Sales for Ocens. There are five. I hear a whoops. Am I showing correctly?
Yes, you're showing correctly.
Yes,
I think it was just someone who came in the room unmuted, made a little noise.
Very good. Very good. Okay, and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna save you guys from having to look at my ugly mug and save everybody a little bit of bandwidth by turning my camera off, and we'll just go ahead and jump right in. So to start with, there are 5 satellite networks or constellations we at Ocens typically discuss with mariners. Each of these networks has something we should discuss, from new technology to diminished coverage. I'm going to take a little time to discuss the differences between the networks and talk about the newest devices for each. Iridium has had the most changes in the industry over the last 2 years, so let's start there. For those of you that don't know, Iridium replaced their constellation with the 2nd generation of satellites in February of 2019. These satellites have a life expectancy of over 20 years, and the satellites are backwards compatible with legacy handsets, but might require a firmware update for the best performance. These satellites are low Earth orbiting. You can think of them as moving cell towers about 450 miles away. They orbit the world in about 100 minutes. The satellites are visible to a given location for less than 10 minutes before handing off to the next bird in view. On the open water, it's typical to have 3 or 4 satellites in view at the same time to maintain a nearly continuous connection as they orbit. And it should be noted that this helps improve the connectivity when the antenna is located below some of the horizontal objects that you may have on your boat. So Iridium's a pretty flexible system. It should also be noted that the L-band frequency of Iridium is nearly impervious to weather. It provides connectivity well beyond the weather your home satellite TV dish might take. Along with that, Iridium has introduced a new suite of services called Certus. So the Iridium Certus was really, it has evolved to fill the gaps. So you'll notice on the left-hand side, you can see how these products are positioned based on data speed, starting with the legacy handsets and progressing to the nearly home internet speeds on the right. Satellite internet is a balance of speed versus hardware costs. It should be noted that larger antennas are required for the higher speeds, so you want to consider how that might complicate your installation. For many, the Certus 100 may be the best fit for simple installation. It provides 40 times faster data than the legacy handsets with an antenna that's only slightly larger than the equipment you may already have installed. So we'll start with Iridium Certus 700. This was Iridium's first introduction to their new technology. Commercial service started in 2019 and was initially launched with a data speed of about 352K. It was increased to 704K with a simple firmware update to their existing hardware 1 year later. This is the fastest data speed using nearly weather impervious L-band frequencies. So there's several manufacturers of the Certus 700 hardware. The antennas vary a little, but are about 14 inches in diameter and a little less than 11 inches tall. And you can see there are a couple of solutions that are actually only about 9 inches tall. From there, there's a below decks unit that requires just a single coax between it and the antenna. From there, you need to add DC power, a standard computer LAN connection, and a home style telephone to complete a basic installation. Larger data packages reduce the per meg cost substantially, but low monthly pay-as-you-go plans are often chose. So you'll notice here when you look at this slide, 60 cents a minute to use it, but data plans can range from $15.75 all the way down to 64 cents a megabyte, depending on the volume of data you commit for. But at $135, it's a pretty good intro. Next, the Certus 200 service has been available for about a year now. There's a noticeable hardware savings, both cost and physical size of the antenna, while the below deck unit is similar in size to its counterpart. Certus 200 service is about 70 times faster than the Iridium Go or a portable handset. The Thales VesselLink 200 has an antenna that's just 5 inches in diameter and less than 7 inches tall. Just like the Certus 700, only a single coax between the antenna and below decks unit is needed. This unit includes a standard phone jack for use with a home style phone and to provide multiple stations if you choose. And again, there's a broad range of costs for data based on the volume you commit for, but this service starts at $89 per month for pay-as-you-go data. It should also be noted that the Iridium or the Certus 700 and the Certus 200 provide up to 3 voice lines with that subscription for no additional charge. But you can see it's about a $1,500 to $2,000 savings over the Certus 700. The Certus 100 service was launched mid-year in 2021, and really the equipment hit the market about October of last year. But for many, that it's 40 times faster in data speed over your existing handsets, and it has a really small form factor. It makes it an excellent path for legacy users, likely to be able to use the same mount that you already have your antenna. You may even be able to reuse your cable.
Can you please get back here?
Sorry, I hope that wasn't intended for me. This is the smallest solution that Iridium offers to standard internet connectivity. Plus, it also includes 2 voice lines. There are 2 marine units currently available. The LT4100 from Lars Tron mounts like a standard marine VHF, and like the other Certus units, only uses a single coax to the antenna. This unit comes with a standard handset with a latching hang-up cup and is extremely simple to use. There's even a single button to start and stop your internet connection from the front panel. On the right, the Skylink 6100 has just been introduced. It has the added capability to blend local cellular LTE data with the Certus 100 service for least cost routing and a simplicity of a single data source. And to be honest, my demo device is set to arrive at the end of next week. So I'm really excited to see this. I think both of these products are a fantastic fit, and really probably the first would be first in line if I were going to upgrade my Iridium handset today. Again, you'll notice a large sweep in the cost of the data. Many data plans do have a bucket of airtime. We can talk a little bit more of that in the Q&A session. So the Iridium suite of legacy products are still compatible with the new Iridium constellation. It should be repeated, though, that if your device is more than a year old and has not had a firmware update, it's recommended you do so now. Information can be found on the Ocens.com website on each product page, and we also offer this service for a small fee if you prefer. It should also be noted that these devices connect to the internet differently than the Certus products and the other ones we're going to discuss. And they're too slow for regular internet browsing or standard email programs, but that's where we fit in. Ocens has solutions that I'll discuss at the end of the presentation. Please be aware that hardware costs, service pricing, and terms have changed as of January 2022. And again, we can get into that a little more. This concludes the latest from Iridium. As you can see, they've got something for everyone. Next up is the Inmarsat network, and we'll talk about equipment and service. Unlike Iridium, Inmarsat uses geostationary satellites. These satellites are about 22,000 miles away instead of 485 like Iridium, and they're located over the equator. They appear fixed to a stationary user. So users to the extreme north or south of the equator will find that the satellites appear very low on the horizon, while users that are close to the equator will have easier access to the satellites because it'll be closer to overhead. You can think of these satellites like your satellite TV service, as the antenna must stay pointed at that fixed point in the sky to stay connected. It's very important for these types of antennas that the antenna be located above horizontal obstructions for continuous connectivity. So a mast, anything that's on the horizontal plane of the antenna can become a blockage. You'll notice in the coverage map on the right, there's coverage shown both in light blue and in green. The light blue coverage includes the green coverage and represents Fleet One's global plans. The green coverage shows the available coastal service plans, which offer some unlimited services. The data speed of the Fleet One service is 150K, and although some of the coastal plans offer unlimited data, those plans are throttled after a certain threshold of data has been used. And like all metered satellite connections, it's important to manage your data. Very few unlimited satellite data plans allow for full data speeds beyond a set amount. And really, it typically starts at about 10 megabytes. We recommend the Sailor Fleet One for this service. The Sailor uses a single coax between the antenna and the below decks unit, and the antenna is about 11 inches in diameter and just under 12 inches tall. There is a recommended optional smart handset with hang-up cup, which serves as a display as well as simplifying its use. Inmarsat does offer larger solutions, but for the scope of our discussion, I think the Fleet One's the best fit. Next, let's talk about KVH's VSAT service. So like Inmarsat, KVH uses geostationary satellites about 22,000 miles away to provide service for the solutions. But instead of the L band, which is very impervious to weather, they use the KU band, which that frequency provides the fastest data available in this class of device, but it's a little more impacted by heavy rain or snow versus the L band of the Fleet One or the Certus. So the TracVone V30 antenna is the largest solution we'll discuss. It's approximately 16 inches in diameter and 18 inches tall, but it's also 8 times faster than the next closest device in our conversation here. So the Certus 700 would be next in line. Data costs are substantially lower than the options that are available on the Certus, and it is available in a month-to-month contract. But you'll notice that data overages start at 99 cents as opposed to the $12 to $15 you saw in the previous slides. This is definitely your top choice if you're going to be a heavy user. Again, and there are bigger devices available, but for the scope of our conversation, I think the V30 is really the next one to consider. The next two networks are included to cover the most common questions, though at this time, I'd caution users to be careful in considering them for your group and your area of use. The biggest changes for 2022 for Globalstar is that Globalstar is shifting to an Internet of Things type of focus, and they've reduced their coverage of voice and two-way data solutions. Most notably, Globalstar has discontinued voice service in Alaska and reduced coverage around the equator. You'll notice by this image, and some of you may know this, Globalstar uses what they call a bent pipe technology. So instead of transmitting among the satellites, it always, when using a Globalstar phone, the satellite, and the Earth station have to be in view. And so that's part of the reason it's become such regional coverage. Globalstar can still be used if you have it, but I don't recommend making it your primary tool. No new handsets are available. Docking kits for use with an external antenna are also questionable, and they're no longer available for the 1700, the phone you see there on the left. And they're in limited supply for the GSP 1600. And the data kit's critical for data use. New batteries and refurbished handsets are still available though. And although the data speed of Globalstar is 4 times faster than Iridium's legacy devices, the service seems to be declining for marine use. Another service I get a lot of questions about is the Starlink service. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this row of satellites in the night sky shown on that left-hand image. I know we've seen it here on the Oregon coast a few times. It's still pretty impressive to see it go by. Starlink currently offers unlimited data speeds of over 100,000 K in comparison to the ones that we've been talking to for $99 a month on a $500 dish. And I know that sounds fantastic. And I've talked to several users who are very happy with the service, but unfortunately, it's not the right package for marine use. The first indication is the name of the plan they offer, called Better Than Nothing. It's a great example of what's coming in the next few years, but right now Starlink requires it to be used in a single fixed location. They also do not offer a marine hardware package. The good news is it's going to be great competition in the future to keep all the solution providers honest and as competitive as possible, while driving the innovation in the marine segment where data use and content is continuing to experience heavy growth. Just look at all the satellites. Starlink's they're only halfway there. Currently, they have just under 2,000 satellites in the sky, and their total constellation is expected to have 4,400, which sounds incredible when you consider Iridium is doing it with 66. So Ocens specializes in solutions, especially for marine users like you guys. If you'll indulge me, I have a few slides to talk about our products. As I mentioned before, most of the satellite data services we've discussed have limits and substantial costs to data overages. We provide hardware and software to simplify data control and allow access to email, weather, messaging, tracking, and web browsing. The Ocens Sidekick and Sidekick Pro provide the connection required for data access over the legacy Iridium handsets, Inmarsat, and Globalstar handsets. But you might not realize it's also compatible for connectivity to faster data solutions like the ones we just discussed. The Sidekick can provide a protected Wi-Fi connection for you and your guests so that they don't have to make any complicated changes to their connected devices to access the services you intend for them to have access to during marine use. The Sidekick Pro adds an extended range and an external antenna connection for larger areas of coverage. Both devices have a built-in firewall that limits access to the internet connection provided by your satellite service without a complicated setup. Common configurations are built in and easy to set up. One of the most popular configurations for mariners is the Iridium Extreme paired with our premium marine antenna kit, which includes the premium antenna, a 10-meter cable, the beam dock light docking kit, and a Sidekick for $22.94. Please note that Iridium has implemented new pricing and terms as of this January, and so service starts at $59.95 with a 3-month minimum term. That includes 10 minutes and 10 SMSs per month. There are larger plans and prepaid services available. For data users, we offer a free Iridium Go with the purchase of a 12-month prepaid Iridium Unlimited plan. The service plan includes unlimited data, unlimited SMS, 250 voice minutes, and tracking. I recommend you consider adding the premium antenna kit, which includes an antenna adapter, our premium marine antenna, 10 meters of coax, and a RAM mount for $485. That way you can take the Iridium Go with you when you leave the boat, but always have an installed location on the boat to provide the best connectivity while underway. If you're not ready to purchase a solution, Ocens does have rentals. We have rental packages for the 9555, the Iridium Extreme, and the Iridium Go, but don't wait to reserve them. They do go fast. If you're looking for a way to keep friends and family informed of your progress or just want to record the trip for review, we've got you covered with the SnapTrack solution, compatible with most position solutions, including email sent manual reports. Ocens Mail provides a dedicated and optimized email address within a full-featured email engine. We recommend it for our commercial accounts and leisure users on extended voyages. Save time by having an email address that focuses on your boat. OneMail is an app to access your existing email accounts over virtually all connections. This includes the Iridium Go, be they satellite, Wi-Fi, or cellular. Of course, this includes the ever-popular Iridium Go. OneMail is available for Apple and Android devices and provides a fast pathway to personal or professional inboxes while giving you the control to only download the messages that you need. It provides a quick summary, shows you the message size so that you can make the decision. Plus, it compresses images. If you've ever sent an image on an iPhone, that image is about 4 megabytes and could cost you almost $100 on some of the legacy devices. So we can compress that and make it much easier to send. OneMessage is a free messaging app built for satellite users. OneMessage users can communicate privately between one another, ship to ship, ship to shore, or shore to ship without any special fees, international texting services, or dialing rules. You can even set up message groups. OneWeb provides compression and media control to squeeze the most out of the limited bandwidth connection while attempting to access the internet over the satellite system. Spotcast provides text-based, position-specific weather forecast for mariners. You can use this with most of the satellite messaging devices like the inReach or Zoleo. You can receive your Spotcast as an SMS message directly to your satellite phone, or even pair it with OneMessage. Never lose track of Mother Nature. WeatherNet gives you access to the largest library of GRIB and classic weather files. Simply draw a box around your area of interest, and WeatherNet will provide a list of weather and ocean content available for that area. Available for that area. Or you can tap the popular products button for that location and see what others in the WeatherNet family are downloading. Optimal routing and departure planning tools are also available in every version of WeatherNet. GRIB Explorer is our powerful analytics tool that pulls insights about changing weather and ocean conditions through unique time and distance chartlets in 3D with layering and animation, and of course, zoom, color, and icon assistance. GRIB Explorer is the complement to the WeatherNet library. And for iPad users, access GRIB files using Saga Explorer for premium weather and ocean GRIB data, then layer it with coastal, offshore, and high seas text forecasts, plus buoy data, Nextrad radar loops, and many of the GRIB Explorer analytics tools that are also available. In summary, a lot has changed in the industry over the last couple of tumultuous years. Smaller, easier to use devices will help expand your access to more information. More reliable than ever and more compatible with today's internet, satellite communications has come a long way and now has arrived at price points every mariner should consider. For legacy users, you should start early this season to make sure your equipment is ready to operate at peak performance. And again, don't forget, if you haven't updated your device in the last year or two, there is a firmware update that should be done. You can count on Ocens. We're here to help you find the best solutions to keep you safe, access all the internet can offer, and provide the tools to interpret ever-changing marine conditions. Thanks, guys. That went a little faster than I expected.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ron. Let's take a look at the chat and see what questions we have. So I put the first one in, which was, so I've got an Iridium Go, and that Certus 100 seems like a nice upgrade since it's a lot faster than.
It's amazing.
Can I have both on the boat? Well, I mean, I guess you wouldn't necessarily use both, but I hate to throw out the device I already bought.
No, you know, actually, I don't know which device you have. Do you have that LT4100?
I've got the little box with the antenna, and then I've got an external antenna.
Okay. Okay. So the Iridium Go has an SOS button built in. Many of the Certus devices do not do SOS yet. So that's the first great reason to do it. There's no interaction with the two antennas, so it won't stop one or the other from working. And in certain conditions, sometimes the Iridium Go might be more convenient to use. Although I have to say, I had my first experience with the Certus 100s with the LT 4100, and it is amazing how much you can get done over that connection. That's 40 times faster than your Iridium Go. So I certainly wouldn't hurry to get rid of your Iridium Go.
Okay. And then kind of a follow-up that I had was with the one mail service, how does it handle attachments? Because I know I got burned last summer where people were trying to send attachments and I couldn't get them. And then either the mail didn't show up at all, or I had too much stuff in my inbox. Can you get the mail, the email itself without the attachment?
Yeah, that's a neat part. So you just get a quick summary. So I my Gmail account that I use is I call it my garbage can, because it gets 300 messages a day, lots of attachments, definitely things that you wouldn't think you could do over a satellite phone. And so I use an Iridium Go on a regular basis, and I can download that entire summary of messages. It's only about 1K, so it takes me less than a minute, maybe a minute at most. And then it shows me the summary of each of those messages. I get the general gist of what the message is. And then it also shows me the message size. So at that point, if you decided there was a big attachment and you wanted it, you might want to use your Certus 100. And the nice part is with the, if you add the Sidekick, you just quickly switch. You tell the one mail service which device you're using. And you can easily choose to download that message. But if you don't want to, it's fine. And you don't lose it. It just marks it as read for your regular message box, but you have a lot of control over that. So I, even with my largest box, and like I said, if I included attachments, I probably have, every time I check my Gmail box, I probably have 3 or 4 megs of messages in there, but I'm able to quickly get that over the Iridium Go and see what those messages are for less than about 1K. And then I can pick one or all of them to download it if I have the speed to do it.
Okay. So there's a question from August. He says, I need to use Zoom for remote work. Do I have to stay home, or are there Sat Comm options that won't break the bank?
That's the big question. It really kind of depends on your budget. I would say for Zoom meetings is really, that's a pretty intensive connection. And I wouldn't look at anything other than probably the KVH for that solution. KVH definitely has the speed to do it. Let's bring that spec up for just a second here. Good grief, come on. There we go. One more. Okay, so you'll notice when we were talking about the Certus 700, or actually when we were talking about the Certus 100, we were talking about 188K. So you'll notice this is 2000K or 2 megs up and 6 megs down, which is as good as a real moderate or a rural internet connection. But that's really what it takes for Zoom meetings. So in this device, you do pay for the terminal up front, and it does have some physical dimension limitations. So, obviously where you position this is going to be really important. But it does have plans at a rate that you can afford. They have an unlimited plan that meters your data. So when you reach a certain threshold, they slow it down. And then they also have a pay-as-you-go type plan so that you can have higher volume. But you definitely want to look at your usage. So we have some tools. This is a great conversation to probably take offline to get deeper into it. But the smaller solutions are probably just not adequate for any of the streaming services, and Zoom especially.
The price on the terminal is pretty steep. Is there any way of managing that? I'm anticipating that question.
Yeah, there are. I've worked with a few leasing companies. You may be able to find one on your own as well. I'll have to look to see what programs are available today, but a lot of times you can stretch these out over up to 3 years. So there are some bundle plans. But again, we have to talk a little more in detail about what you need.
Okay, so there was another, right after that, somebody asked if you could please put your contact slide back up so that folks can get back to you, because I think maybe August wants, and I'm again anticipating August may want to reach out to you as well and
absolutely
figure out some options. This way he doesn't have to stay home.
Yes, exactly. Whoops, I managed to jam up my presentation. Let me start that again.
Okay, while you're doing that,
There we go.
we have another question. I have an Iridium Extreme, which has been great. What would be the best pairing with it?
So the first thing I would ask is the Iridium Extreme in a docking kit? That's pretty paramount to using it for any kind of data solution. And then from there, you use our Sidekick device. So that Sidekick device is $130 to $150. It uses the existing data cable that came with your Extreme, and it provides a Wi-Fi connection and a dialer. So depending on what you want to do with it, whether you want to get one mail or one message, or if you, there's really not much you're going to be able to do to browse the internet. There's a little bit of text-based stuff you can do, but it's pretty limited. So I'm assuming email and GRIB files are the request. And so you start with the Sidekick, and then you would either add the OneMail app to have access to your existing email, the Ocean Mail account if you want a dedicated email account, and then the Weather Explorer, or I'm sorry, the WeatherNet to have access to the library GRIB files. And then finally, depending on how you may have a software program that can display the GRIB data, or I highly recommend our GRIB Explorer. That gives you a lot of tools to interpret all that data and overlay it.
Okay. So we have another question here. Ease of use of a handset versus, say, Iridium Go, where you use your cell phone to make a call. Especially, he's thinking about, if in an emergency. Any feel about what's the best solution?
Yes. Yeah, I get this question a lot. So when it comes to actually pressing SOS, either the Iridium Extreme or the Iridium Go will do fine. You just want to make sure you register your rescue information. But when it comes to ease of use, especially if it's something you don't use very often, I definitely recommend you stick with a standard handset for making phone calls, because at least then you can call for tech support to connect your data services. The challenge you run into sometimes with the Iridium Go has nothing to do with the Iridium Go. It has to do with the way the app manufacturers and update iOS or Android devices and the apps. And that's where I definitely run into more problems with users using the Iridium Go in that way. So the Iridium Go is the best when it comes to data. They have the best price plans for even unlimited data use. But when it comes to actually making a phone call, an Iridium handset has it beat hands down.
Now, can you have an Iridium handset and still use your cell phone for, does that make sense?
Yeah, so you can use the OneMail app or our Saga software with an iPad to access weather data. So you can do mail and weather using a smart device and a standard handset. I do recommend, if you're going to use any of these, if you're going to use them on a boat, I highly recommend you put them on a docking kit, though. That greatly improves the performance of the antenna, because data requires a longer connection typically, and causes you to restart if your connection is broken. That a docking kit is really paramount.
Okay. So we have a tough story here. I guess Mike had purchased a KVH V3IP in 2017.
Oh boy.
And then 4 years later, I guess they said goodbye.
Yeah. That I have to say that has left a sour taste in some people's mouth, and it is one of the struggles with technology. It's my understanding that KVH does have an upgrade program to help get you into the next gen, but I realize that 4 years is usually not what you expect out of some of this hardware, especially at those price points. So it's something to consider. I can tell you that V30 has just come out on the market, so it is expected to last for quite some time. I think some of this we see maybe some of the hangover of COVID and some of the impact it's had on almost any business. But yeah, that's really unfortunate. And I have talked to a few people that have suffered from that. And I really, like I said, there is an upgrade site where you enter your serial number, and KVH does have a program to upgrade those. And again, I'm happy to take that offline if you need more help.
Okay. So I think I've exhausted the questions that have been posed. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask?
Great questions.
Does not look like it. So Okay, well, then in that case, Ron, this has been great. I think
you so
we'll probably up. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I knew if I said we're done, then maybe someone, is the docking station just for the Iridium handset or for cell phones too?
No, the docking kit is intended for the Iridium handsets. Now, there are some different things that you can do for cell phones and boosters, but that's really kind of beyond our scope. But again, I'm always happy to take the tests, take your questions. Before I joined the satellite world, I owned a marine shop myself, so I might be able to make some recommendations depending on what you need.
Okay. Got another request for you to share your contact information. And
Oh, did I forget to hit share? I'm sorry.
And can you maybe also while you're, after you do that, can you summarize the monthly plans and maybe, and can you turn these plans on and off?
That's a great question. So it depends on the device. Up until January, Iridium provided month-to-month service on most all of their plans. But it's the manufacturers that control that. So each package kind of has a few little caveats depending on what your intentions are. Although most plans do offer at least a shorter contract of 3 months or less. And then in many cases, there is a prepaid option as well. So do you have a particular brand or model in mind that I could drill down on?
See if they come back with an answer to that. Okay, by the way, going back on handsets and if I go with a handset, do I still need a Sidekick?
Yeah, so the Sidekick's applicable to everything we discussed with the exception of the Iridium Go. So the Iridium Go has a built-in Wi-Fi, and the way it communicates, there's really no way for the Sidekick to protect you. The nice part is the data speed of the the Iridium Go, and the fact that they do offer unlimited plans is pretty protective. So it's really hard to get to cause real heavy cost overruns, although you still have to watch out because certain devices kind of help themselves. With the Iridium app itself, for those that don't have an Iridium Go, and you may think that when you hook your iPhone to an Iridium Go that it enables all those apps such as Google Maps or even your regular email program. It doesn't. The Iridium Go depends on the handset to run the Iridium Go app and only the Iridium Go app while connected. So it's already kind of protected. For all the others, and especially on the legacy equipment, because it doesn't connect to the internet the same way these newer products do, which is more like today's world where you just plug an Ethernet cable in. They use something called a dialer, and so all our software, from OneMail to WeatherNet, has a built-in dialer. So you tell that software how you're connected. So you say, hey, I'm connected to an Iridium 9575 or an Iridium legacy handset through the Sidekick, and the software does the rest. So it just has a quick connect button to complete the task that's requested, and then it quickly hangs up to make it as fast as possible and to prevent anything else from helping itself to that very little sliver of internet connection.
Okay, I think the question before about monthly plans, turning them on and off, I think you had then asked what device that they have.
Yes.
And the answer is an Iridium Go.
What is the Iridium Go? Yeah, so the Iridium Go is still available with month-to-month plans. We even have a special where you can suspend your service, so you don't have to. One of the challenges with most Iridium devices is when you disconnect your service, the SIM becomes inactive and you actually have to replace that SIM. So that's a physical piece of hardware you have to put in the phone. So if you happen to not realize that your service lapsed or you put it away and went to use it and you're in a hurry, you've got to have enough time to get that SIM card. So the Iridium Go has kind of a unique plan where you can suspend for, I want to say it's $10 a month. And that way you keep your phone number, the SIM stays active, and when you're ready to turn it back on, it's just you want to call. I always recommend you call 24 hours in advance, call our office, we can turn that service right back on. And then it's month-to-month service, so you can choose and vary between plans. So if you don't think you're going to use it much one month, you can use it that way. And then if the next month you intend to, just make sure you let us know 5 days before the next month begins.
Okay, back on that, what is the cost to replace the SIM cards typically?
Typically, it's just postage. The SIM cards officially cost $10, and then you'd have postage. normally for customers that we've worked with in the past, we'll just send you one for free. And a lot of times, if you for some of our customers that aren't quite sure how things are going to go, we'll send them one card to use and one to stick in a drawer just in case.
So does it make sense? I mean, is it more cost effective to just cancel this, stop the service, or do what go to the $10 a month version?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. There's a $50 activation fee each time you turn them on. So that's really kind of where your threshold is. So I wouldn't turn it if you're going to use it within 5 or 6 months. I would suspend service as opposed to canceling the card. Now, again, that suspend service is only available for the Iridium Go, not on the standard handsets.
Okay. And we also had a question. What are your thoughts on the Garmin InReach?
I think so. I usually ask questions. Those text-based messengers, Garmin is a real powerhouse. They build hardcore stuff. But that said, their specialty is navigation and their mapping. So what I've found in the past is the InReach provides the text messaging, but it's secondary to their mapping features. So I actually prefer the Zoleo over the Garmin if messaging is the important part. But if you're looking for a great combination that gives you both your navigation and your communications, yeah, that Garmin, you can't beat the Garmin InReach. The one thing to know on the InReach, currently is typically to communicate with one of those devices, they have to talk to you first. It usually communicates with a temporary number. So it's a little harder to stay in touch. And that's where the Zoleo kind of wins out. The Zoleo has a standard email address and a standard phone number. So it's compatible with regular email software and regular SMS on a phone. But it takes it a step further. And not only does it both of the devices use the Iridium network, so you've got global coverage, but it also uses cellular and Wi-Fi. So if you've got a faster solution on board the vessel, you don't even have to turn on the Zoleo hardware. You just need the app, and the app itself is free. So it's a pretty neat device.
Okay. There's a follow-up question back on KVH. Do you have an opinion as to which company is the least risky as to obsolescence in the continuously changing technology field?
I have to say, Iridium is really the current leader. They've just made the big investment in their software, but Inmarsat is right behind them. The biggest difference is Inmarsat tends to be, with the exception of the Fleet One, most of Inmarsat's products are aimed at larger users. So with that context, for the average mariner, Iridium kind of wins the battle. Plus, Iridium's the only manufacturer that covers the whole world. Inmarsat's on their heels. Matter of fact, Inmarsat's already launched a new satellite to cover the poles, but I think it's 3 months out before they light it up.
Okay, great. I've got, by the way, a lot of good feedback on the presentation itself. I think it's been really, really helpful. Any other last minute questions that we want to make sure that Ron can answer now? If not, again, feel free to reach out to Ron. He put up his contact info, and we'll take it from there. So if we're done, then Barb, we can do a wrap up. I just will add that we do have a webinar on Thursday that's kind of a follow-on where we'll be talking about predict wind and weather. So come on back for that one. Barb, you want to do a wrap, and then we'll turn the recording off?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ron. Great information, and everyone, great questions for Ron today. Thanks, everyone, for attending. And like Alex said, we're going to turn the recording off now and go into a little more chat if everyone wants to.